Welcome to this episode of the Gunman. In this video, we'll be taking you through the rust repairs on my old XF Falcon. So I've transformed this car from a plain old white Falcon into a race car lookalike. It's not a complete 100% replica. I just decided one day I was looking at the paint job and I liked the livery that was on it, and I decided to do it up to look like that because I like the paint job on it. So I took it in on the Friday, pulled the panels off. I got another video on that which I uploaded last week, and on the Saturday I came in, did all the rust repairs and edged up the panels. So I painted the insides. I did all of this in one day. I ended up painting the insides of all the door jambs, insides of all the panels, inside the boot lid, bonnet, and the hood and the trunk and all that. And this is just the rust repairs. So I've sped the whole video up to twice speed, so I jammed a whole lot of footage into 16 minutes. So gives you a good look at some of the steps that it took to get it painted. So as I said, this is just the rust repairs. The next video will be on the edging up of the panels, or the painting of the inside of the panels. So we're starting off with just identifying the rust areas, and we'll just start opening them up with grinders. You've got loads of different kinds of grinders that you can use. Obviously you can see there I've covered up the inside of the car with some plastic because it's got a nice interior on it. I don't want to go and get dust and stuff all over it. So anywhere that you think your sparks are going to actually land, or if you're doing any welding, then you get some fireproof matting, which you can see over the rear winds, where the rear windscreen goes just there. I've got some fireproof mattings there, but most of it's just for the sake of the dust. So it was pretty far gone down here, you can see. Yeah, but overall, for a car that's 30 years old next year, it's actually in quite good nick. I've seen many cars that are in much worse condition than this one. So I did a bit of a different method on a couple of the holes in this car. It was actually my foreman, the panel beater guy. He said, "Oh, mate, you can't be videoing that. Like, you know, that's just so dodgy what you're doing." But I disagree, and I made a video and I said, "Mate, you know, the way I see it, if I'm happy to do it on my car, there's going to be thousands of other people out there that are going to be happy enough to do it on their car. So I'm not doing this car up to sell. So it's up to me how good I want the job." And I decided I didn't want to get the welder out. I couldn't be bothered, and I ended up using some panel bond. And so you clean all the rust up first. And this is a little die grinder. It gets into all the little nooks and crannies. You clean it all up. There was a couple of spots there on that boot opening where the rust had eaten away, and it was no longer sealing for that rubber seal. So I ended up just getting a couple of pieces of steel and bridging that gap up inside here. I ended up just cutting out the worst of it, and then I found a new panel, or an old panel actually, off another car that we had sitting out the back. Cut out a patch and then ended up placing it inside here. Yeah. Gives you just an air powered hacksaw. I guess you could use the angle grinder alternatively. So the products and tools that you're going to need for this is just your angle grinders, your air powered tools. You're going to need your rust killers. If you really wanted to, you could decide to just use the rust killer and some fiberglass fill, but it's not going to last as long. Even what I'm doing here is you've probably got a 5 to 10 year maximum lifespan. I'm giving it. It's never going to be something permanent, because as my uncle, who was the best panel beater I've ever seen at doing restoration work, he'd have customers bring their car back after 5 years and they'd say, "Oh, it's rusting," and he'd say, "Well, the manufacturer can't build a car that doesn't rust. How can I repair it to make it so it's not going to rust? I can do my best to stop it, but that's about all we can really do." So I got this old panel that I found out the back, an old panel that we'd pulled off another car, and just cutting up some steel. I'm just eyeing it up. You could get a bit of cardboard in there and you could cut a template out alternatively, but I just decided to just start hacking into it and just start cutting bits off and whack it in. So, as I said, I was on a time frame. My initial plan to do this job changed. My initial plan was to come in on the Saturday, paint the insides, and then on the Sunday I was going to come in, bolt all the panels back up, and the next weekend I'd come down and do some of the exterior panels. But as I came in on the Sunday, I just decided, hey, I'm here now, why don't I just get the whole thing painted? So that's just what ended up happening. So I'm just trimming this piece up, curving over those edges a little bit there, so it fits in a little bit nicer. We also, after we put this in, we've got some rust converter. It's a really good product, this one. It's water-based product. It's not too expensive either. You can get it from just the hardware stores and the auto stores and stuff like that. And you spray that over all the affected areas of rust, and it'll actually turn the rust into a primed surface. It'll turn real hard and it'll go black when it's dry. It doesn't take too long to dry. If it's too cold in your area, just grab the heat gun or just put some heat onto it somehow, and it should dry up within about 20 minutes to half an hour, and then you can start working over the top of it. Sometimes it's just easier to do this and then walk away once the rust kills on, do something else, then come back to it in half an hour or an hour or something. So as you can see, there's my big hole. I've cut this plate up. I'm happy enough with that. I'm not looking for perfection. It's just to bridge that gap up. This car used to get a lot of exhaust fumes coming into the car, and I found out why once I pulled those tail lights out. So I'm pretty happy with how that's sitting there. And next up, we're going to get this panel bond. It's extremely high strength glue that they use to glue panels on with these days instead of welding. The other option I could do was to weld it up, but I just honestly couldn't be bothered. And as I said, I was on a time frame. Couldn't be bothered cleaning the steel up so much, and you've got to get earth areas, which isn't a big deal, but and then you're going to get it's just I decided this was going to be a quicker way. It's just glue it in, bang, half an hour, walk away. It's going to be dry, and it did end up doing a real good job. So I'm real happy with how it turned out. So this is a panel bonder. There you go. It's in all different languages for the rest of you all around the world. The Terrasen is the brand that I'm using. So the idea of this nozzle that's on the front is that it's got two cartridges inside there. It's got two sides to the actual cartridge, and once it comes up to that tip, it actually comes inside this tip and it mixes together because it's a 2-pack panel bond. It's not a 1K product. It ended up that it taking so long to come out of the nozzle. After I ended up doing this one, I just decided to do away with the nozzle, and we ended up just squirting both part A and part B straight out onto a bit of cardboard and using an applicator to mix it together just like you would any normal filler. Because that nozzle on the end is restricting the flow. Obviously, while it's mixing together, it's got to try and push the panel bonder through. So there was 2 little patches I ended up putting inside that boot channel opening as well, and I just ended up on that rear windscreen opening. I just ended up just filling it full of this stuff. It's a really good quality, high strength. There's many different products you can use. There's fiberglass filler that you can use, which is okay for bog because it grabs in there nice and it grabs on well. So I ended up just putting some tape just to hold it into place because otherwise it would have dropped down. And you can also use, they've got actual metal fillers, so they try to imitate metal, so they're a lot harder than normal polyester fillers. So there's many different products on the market, but I decided to use this one. So a canister of that would probably cost you around the $16 to $20 mark, depending on where you are. So, there's no reason you couldn't do this at home with some tin snips. Like I've got the angle grinders at the workshop and that, but just grab some tin snips, cut it out, panel bond. You don't even need a welder. So I actually thought, while my foreman said, no, you can't put that on online because it's so dodgy, I thought, you know what? It's probably going the kind of thing that people actually would like to see, that there is an option other than welding, you know. Not everyone knows how to weld, and yeah, not everyone has a welder as well. So here we go with the boot lid, which was pretty far gone, and there's also some of the doors. One of the doors was pretty far gone, but as far as the boot lid went, I looked into getting a new one or a second hand one. The only one I found was about $200, and it had dints all through it, and that I only saw the outside photos, and I thought, you know what, my boot lid just needs a rub down and a paint, other than the inside, which had that, and I thought, well, I can fix that within a few hours, and I'll save myself a couple of $100. So I was actually real happy with how that boot lid came up in the end. This is just a quick look at some of the prep work I ended up doing. I was pretty rough with it, to be honest, but it did the job. So I just grabbed some 180 on the orbital sander, buzzed right into it, got rid of all those affected areas, and then just used red Scotch-Brite. By rough, I mean I'm using coarse sandpaper. I did a good job at removing the rust areas, but you know, if you were to do the job like a show car, you'd probably buzz it down with 240, prime the whole thing up, rub all that primer down, but I didn't have time and I didn't want to go that far with this car. It's just a good clean up of the car. I ended up 180ing it and then just going over the top of that with some etch primer, and then straight on with the blue, and then the clear coat over the top. So used it as a wet on wet filler. So with this panel bonder that we're using, to be honest, we shouldn't really be getting it on our hands. It's not good for you. It's a 2-pack. It's got all the nasties in it. We couldn't find any gloves on that day, and you know what? My hands were black for the following week. I mean, it's not like paint and 2-pack fillers where you can just clean them off and they'll come off the next day. Like, this stuff is real killer. Like, if you do get it on your hands, clean it off straight away. I didn't. I was in too much of a rush. I didn't end up cleaning it off, and I paid the price for the next week. So I learned from my mistakes on that one. And this is the first time I'd actually ever done anything like this, to be honest with you. I'd never fixed rust in this method. I'd always just done welding before, but you wouldn't do it like this on exterior panels. You notice that when all these parts that I've done it on are only interior areas, so underneath that taillight's never going to be seen. It's not structural. Inside this boot lid, you barely even know it's there. I didn't even know it was there until I had some rust fall on my head once I opened the boot lid up one day. And it's also an area where the exhaust fumes could have come into my car as well. So yeah, so some of these other smaller patches there, you can see we're wiping the 2-pack panel bonder into. I'm also just got a bit of heat on there. It takes a little bit to dry. It takes about an hour to dry, and I was just trying to speed that process up by getting a bit of heat into it, because it was a pretty cold day on the day that we ended up doing it. So then leave that for a little bit, walk away, do some other stuff. My mate did the insides of that door for me. It's pretty nice of him to help me out. Irish mate of mine, that works. So here I'm doing some prep work on the inner jams as well. Just using 180, 240 would be okay as well. You don't want to go too coarse if you're going to use wet on wet, because you'll end up seeing the sanding scratches, but it turned out quite well. So as I said, it did totally change the way I did this job. So next up inside this boot lid, once that filler or that panel bonder end up drying, this is just a 4-in-1. It's a seam sealer, any sort of seam sealer. It's got a bit of play in it, so when it's dry, it's still going to have a bit of movement in it. It's just a normal seam sealer which you have on all cars. So just sealing that right up so there's no air or no water is going to get through there, and then going back around all those edges, which I ended up getting the drill with a wire brush on it, and cleaning up all those edges where the seam sealer was, so we can then reseal it, which is what I'm doing there, and hopefully stop the water from getting through and re-rusting. If I get another 5 years out of that boot lid, I'm happy. So yeah, if if I get 6 or 7, that's just a bonus. So yeah, just running around that. When you get to the very edges, you just wipe it in with your finger. A couple of little air pockets, I think, from up there from memory, what happened there. So this just about brings this video to an end. It's just covering the rust repairs, and this is the car once it's all finished off. It's looking pretty nice. It's not quite finished. I've just got a couple of fender stickers to go on those fenders. A couple of Bridgestone stickers, and one I'm going to put on that boot spoiler as well. But apart from that, it's looking pretty nice now. So there's another one of it when it's outside before I put those headlights in. I've got footage of every step of the way on this car, the wheels, absolutely everything I did. I've got loads of footage, so I'll be uploading them as I get the chance to. So a couple of other vids here, if you haven't seen them, check them out. There's my brand new spray gun, which I got given, the Pro Light review and demo, and the Anesti Water review and demo, which is another one of my popular vids. So check them out if you haven't already. Thanks again for watching, and this has been another Gunman production. Goodbye.